Hi. So here's another live stream of me reading my fan fiction of My Little Pony, Affiliate to a Wolf, Chapter 3, which I need to find here. For those of you who don't know what's going on, I recommend looking at my last published video, like the one I published before this one. This one will make more sense if you look at that one. Basically, I'm reading a fan fiction I wrote. I wrote it 5 years ago. It's a fan fiction to a fan fiction for My Little Pony. It's kind of confusing, I know. Basically, it's a story I wrote that continues on after the book Past Sins by Penstroke. He's a very widely known story writer. And yeah, so I'm going to continue on with my book. And if I'm looking down a lot on the screen, I apologize. It's kind of odd to see, but you can just listen in to what I'm saying, because that's basically what it is. I'm just reading to you guys a story. Affiliate to a Wolf, Chapter 3. Can we keep him? The next morning, Twilight had gotten up and gone downstairs to tell Spike the whole story. He was skeptical at first, but eventually he began to understand the situation. So should we write to the princess? Asked Spike. Yes, we can't afford to keep this a secret, said Twilight. Nyx being an alicorn was easy to hide, but it would be more challenging to hide a wolf. With that said, Spike picked up a pen and paper and began to write as Twilight began to tell the story of last night's events. Leaving out no details. When she was finished, Spike sent the letter. Nyx came downstairs and said, "Good morning." "Good morning, Nyx," said Twilight and Spike together. Twilight and Spike told Nyx what was going to happen over the next few days, involving the wolf cub they found. The plan was to keep an eye on the cub until the princesses replied to their letter with instructions of what to do with him. Hang on, I'm getting a little sweaty. My air conditioning's not working right. It's at almost 80 degrees, and it's supposed to be set for 70, which is really stupid. Let me find my place. Nyx protested about the plan and said, "But what if they tried to take him away?" "Trust me, Nyx," said Twilight. "If they take him, it will only be to look after him. Besides, he's in no condition to go anywhere right now." Just then, a knock on the door. When Twilight answered, Nurse Redheart was outside with a set of papers. "Hello, Twilight. I hope I am not interrupting anything," she said. "Not at all," said Twilight. "What is it? How's the cub?" Nurse Redheart frowned and said, "That's the thing. He's well. Maybe you should come with me." Twilight and Nyx and Spike followed Nurse Redheart to the hospital. As they entered the room, the wolf was staying in their eye. In the room, as they entered the room, the wolf was staying. In their eyes widened at what they saw. The wolf was standing on its back legs like a human, looking to be in perfect health. When he saw them, he began to wag his tail. Happy to see them, he walked over to them and smiled with excitement. One second. All right. Twilight, with her mouth open, tried to speak, but no words came out. Nurse Redheart began and said, "He's made a surprising full recovery and is very enthusiastic. He's been helping around the hospital by tending to the patients and playing games with the children." "When did this happen?" asked Twilight. Last we saw him, he was knocked out." "He first woke up at sunrise," said Nurse Redheart. He hadn't spoken yet, but he understands us pretty well. There was another thing you should see. Nurse Redheart told the wolf to turn to his side. When he did, there was a cutie mark on his flank. It was a red paw print with a red ring around it. Twilight, Nix, and Spike were speechless. No one has ever seen a wolf with a cutie mark. How is this possible? That's not even the disturbing part, said Nurse Redheart, handing Twilight the papers. The papers were x-rays of the wolf's skeleton. Every bone in his body had magic symbols carved into them. Twilight didn't even recognize them. They seemed to be a dead language. So it'll explain more about the story in a bit. Oh wait. Here we go. I lost my place for a second. Nurse Redheart continued and said, His bones have also been thickened with a rare form of dark magic. Our doctors have never seen anything like it. There's one more thing you should see. Twilight followed Nurse Redheart to the table by the windowsill. A half-made synthetic leg lay on top of the table next to a flower pot of dirt. What is this? Asked Twilight. It's his, said Nurse Redheart. There was a young baby tree planted in the pot. He used a transfiguration spell to forge parts for this leg. It took our top doctors years to study transfiguration spells, Twilight. Is there something you're not telling me? Hesitant to reply, Twilight told Nurse Redheart Rainbow Dash's scary story of Shadow Flame. The nurse listened intently as Twilight gave every detail of what she heard and what happened. Nurse Redheart thought of what Twilight said, looked back at the wolf and asked, Is what she's saying accurate? The wolf nodded and repeated the word, accurate. Just then, Spike burped a letter from Celestia. He opened it and read, To my faithful student Twilight Sparkle. I need to talk to you and your friends of this matter. I need to see the wolf cub personally. My sister and I will be there by tomorrow. Please be careful and don't gather any unnecessary attention. Twilight raised an eyebrow. What do you think that Wait. Oh, oops. I read it wrong again. What do you think's the matter? She asked. I'm not sure, said Spike, but I don't like it. Does this mean we might not keep him? Asked Nix. Twilight looked at her and said, Nix, we can't keep a wolf in the library. Besides, his parents might be out there worried about him. Nix frowned and said, But he's so cute and fluffy. Besides, if he had parents, why would they leave him there instead of helping him? We don't know that for sure, argued Twilight. He could have just wandered too far from home. Applejack and Rainbow Dash and Rarity walked into the doorway with Scootaloo, Sweetie Belle, and Apple Bloom and Twist. They had just gotten back from the forest after the events of last night to check on the wolf cub. When they saw him, they had reacted just as Twilight did. He seems better, said Applejack. How? Asked Rainbow Dash. He bit off his own leg when we found him. Nurse Redheart interjected and said, Twilight told me about that. I have concluded that he did it because he wanted to defend Twilight and Applejack when Nix was wrestling in the bushes. This part, I don't really think many people got when I wrote this. Basically, when Teodoro realized that Twilight and Applejack were there to help him, he thought that when Nix was wrestling in the bushes, he thought there was a threat to the two ponies that were there to help him. So he was trying to use whatever strength he could to get out of there so that he can defend them. He's kind of a defensive type where he tries to protect people even though he doesn't have the ability. Really? Asked Rarity. Yes, Nurse Redheart answered. He realized he wasn't able to protect them as long as he was in the trap, so he tried to free himself by removing his caught foot. Well, it looks like he's benefiting from that because he's full of pep, commented Applejack, pointing at the wolf as he continued to wag his tail. Twilight explained to her friends about what Celestia's letter said and what they might need to expect. The wolf at this point can't be fully trusted, so they shouldn't let him out of their sight. He seemed nice now, but he could try to hurt some pony if they got too close. Nurse Redheart then gave Twilight the rest of the x-rays and said, "Keep these to show the princesses. Maybe they can decipher the inscriptions." Twilight thanked Nurse Redheart, took the x-rays, and signed the release form for the wolf. She and her friends left the hospital and went back to their homes. They were all tired from the long walk back to town. Twilight, Nyx, Spike, and now the wolf cub, with his now finished synthetic leg, went back to the library to eat a late breakfast. All right, I think I got time for one more chapter. Chapter 4, The What If Factor. Twilight, Spike, Nyx, and the wolf spent the whole afternoon indoors trying to keep away from any unwanted attention, just as Celestia had asked. Every now and then the wolf had to hide upstairs from visitors who wanted to check out or return a library book or two. Eventually, Twilight's friends, Pinkie Pie and Fluttershy, had arrived after hearing what happened from the others. Pinkie kept her distance from the wolf, still suspicious of what the unexpected problem would be. Fluttershy, however, couldn't keep her eyes off of the little cub. There weren't many wolves in Equestria, and she just couldn't help but ask questions of who he was, where are his parents, and what his name is. The wolf looked at her with wide eyes. Twilight expected the cub to be silent, but to her surprise, he managed 3 words. "My name Teotl." His voice had a soft, tender feel to it. It sounded kind of like it sounded kind, but also a bit nervous. His vocabulary needed work, but they understood him pretty well. Fluttershy said, "Teotl, that's a very good name. Not one that I've heard before." Pinkie Pie slowly approached Teotl, trying not to blink, because if she did, then he would disappear and cause trouble. She looked him dead center in the eyes and said, "I'm watching you." "Pinkie," said Twilight. "He won't do anything bad. He's just a cub." "I can't take any chances, Twilight. The knot in my tail has spoken," said Pinkie Pie. "Well, try not to scare the poor thing," said Fluttershy, patting Teotl's head. "All right," said Pinkie Pie. Teotl looked at Pinkie Pie and said, "I don't know what wrong. A knot in my tail tells me that something bad will happen and we won't be able to fix it the easy way," Pinkie Pie explained. Teotl said, "I'm sorry. I wish I could help." "If you want to help, stay out of trouble," said Pinkie Pie. "Maybe it's not you my tail is talking about." Teotl shrugged and said, "I don't even know how to get in trouble." "Well then, we have nothing to worry about," said Twilight. Nyx looked at Twilight and with pleaded eyes and said, "If it turns out that he won't be any trouble, can we keep him?" Teotl began to wag his tail at the question, but Twilight argued and said, "I'm sorry, Nyx, but even if he isn't dangerous, we still need to try and find his family." Teotl frowned as his tail fell between his legs. He looked at the ground and said, "Family is gone." The room was silent. What did he mean by gone? Were they far away? Did they leave him? Or were they ... A knock came from the door, breaking the silence. Twilight opened the door to see Rarity on the other side. "Rarity, what are you doing here?" asked Twilight. "I thought I'd check on the cub we found." "He isn't in the hospital, so I thought I'd check here," said Rarity. She walked inside to see Teotl still looking at the ground. She then looked at his metal leg. "Did Nurse Redheart give him that?" Rarity asked. Twilight smiled nervously and answered, "No, he made it with the transfiguration spell." Rarity, Pinkie Pie, and Fluttershy all looked at Twilight as if she had 3 heads. transfiguration spell? How can a wolf do that? Fluttershy asked. Teodor smiled and looked up from the ground. He took his synthetic arm and set it on the ground. I show you, he said, raising a paw as his claws began to glow. The leg lifted off the ground and was floating in midair. It disassembled and fell apart as he concentrated on reversing the spell. The parts then shifted and changed back into a little sapling tree. Oh, that's nice, Rarity said, though through clenched teeth. Oh, wait. Oh, that's nice. Sorry. I couldn't resist reading it like that because she had clenched teeth, you know. Twilight gave Rarity a nudge on the shoulder and whispered sarcastically, "Nice subtlety." Rarity looked back at Twilight and said, "Twilight, dear, may I talk with you in private?" Twilight hesitated. She soon nodded her head. She told Nyx, Spike, and Turtle to go upstairs. Turtle remade his leg and followed the others to Twilight's room while she talked to Rarity, Pinkie Pie, and Fluttershy. Twilight, asked Fluttershy, I know what Rarity told me and Pinkie Pie, but what do you know about Turtle? Aside from his poor vocabulary, Rarity added. Your guess is as good as mine, Twilight explained. We found him in the forest, stuck in some enchanted bear trap. He chewed off his own leg to escape. He healed overnight, and apparently he can use magic to make a new leg. Twilight, what exactly is your plan for Turtle? Asked Rarity. We've already written to the princesses, answered Twilight. They say they'll be here tomorrow to find out what to do. Aren't you worried that they might... aren't you worried of what might happen? Asked Pinkie Pie. What if they take him and send him off alone somewhere? Oh, come on. I doubt they'll do something like that, replied Twilight. They'll most likely try to find his family or another pack of wolves who will take him in. But Twilight, no pony has seen a wolf in Equestria for a long time, remarked Fluttershy. He said his family is gone. What if there are no other wolves? Well, what's he doing here then? Asked Twilight. We're just saying... Oh, wait. Well, what's he... Oh, okay. I kind of lost track of what I was reading. We're just saying that it might be what Pinkie Pie is talking about, where there's no easy answer, said Rarity. Twilight thought about that for a while. There was no easy answer to this, like they said. But if there are no other wolves, could Pinkie Pie's not mean that this situation they're in now? She looked at her friends and said, maybe you're right. But even, no, wait. Oh, oops. Wait, sorry, I lost my place. Maybe you're right. I don't even know how they're going to react to seeing his metal leg, Rarity said. All we're saying is to be ready for the worst, whether it be Nyx's disappointment for not keeping him, or Celestia's choice for Tail's fate. I understand, Twilight, said Twilight. Thank you. Twilight called Spike, Nyx, and Tail back downstairs. When they came down, Rarity asked Spike, could you bring me a book on basic vocabulary, dear? Okay, Rarity, Spike said giddily. Spike grabbed a book off the bookshelf titled Proper Vocabulary for Fillies. Thank you, Spike, said Rarity. What are you going to do with that? Rarity smiled and said, try to fix Turtle's vocabulary. If he is going to be presented to the princesses, he must talk, look, and sound the part. End of chapter 4. Huh. That was actually a lot less time than I thought it would be. Anyway, I'm going to end this stream here. If you guys liked it, leave a like and a comment down below. I hope you are enjoying the story so far. It's honestly something I'm very proud of. It took me over a year to finish, I think. Well, I actually forget how long it took me to write that book. I know it took a lot of editing, over 2 years after I finished the basic frame of the story. But anyway, yeah, I hope to hear from you guys later. Hope you're all doing well, and I'll talk to you later. Peace.